College football is back. Welcome into the College Fantasy Football Big Board. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the DFS educator, joined as always by John Lobb, the Gridiron Scholar. It is over. The wait is done. It is sicko mode. It is College Fantasy Football Week 0 time. We are back at it this season with our slate preview, with our DFS plays, with our sleepers of the week, and with our best bets. I am joined this season again by John Lobb, the ever optimistic college football and UConn fan. John, it's time.
It is time. And Matt, I've grown to love week 0. College football gets to really kick off the whole season without the NFL interfering. They've created this beautiful week 0, late August, and the NFL did college football a favor, Matt. They kick off after Labor Day. When I was younger, the NFL would kick off Labor Day weekend, so people would be away and the television ratings were low. But why is that significant? That gives college football center stage for about a week and a half here. I love week 0. It's DFS mania. It's if I have an active waiver wire, someone might pop up. And just as an example, Rasheen Ali, and I'm hoping the young man, Matt, everything works out for him. He has left the Thundering Herd. We do not have a timetable. Obviously, his personal life and anything that he has going on is more important than football. But there's a reality. You might have Rasheen Ali. He was a first-round pick in every draft that I did. We have some waiver wire guys, sleeper guys tonight, and you should be watching if you might need a running back, Matt. So I'm fired up. This is a shorter show, or, we have a smaller slate, but we're going to give people a taste of what we're going to do all year.
All right, and a quick editor's note here. If you are watching, you are potentially watching as early as Tuesday night because we are doing our CFF shows live all season. But if you are listening, this is dropping in your feed on Friday. That is just a week 0 anomaly. Throughout the season, we will be recording live on Thursday nights on the Rookie Big Board YouTube page, and we will be dropping all of those podcasts on the Rookie Big Board Podcast Network on Friday morning. So, John, let's go ahead and get into our Marvelous Matchup segment. For folks who did not listen in last season, first and foremost, welcome. All right, we always love new folks joining in here. We start each week by talking about the 5 games with the highest over-under total. The implication here is that if they have the highest over-under total, there will be more scoring in the game, which means there will be more CFF action. And believe it or not, we are starting this year, 2022, with the highest over-under of the week, the UConn Huskies and the Utah State Aggies. And John, we will circle back to Utah here when we get to our best bet segment, because our listeners know that we kind of have a running bit with UConn and we're taking it to the next level this season. But let's start here with the over-under of 60 for the Huskies and the Aggies, with the Huskies getting 27 to start the season.
Matt, and this is very important. We're not identifying the best matchups. We are identifying the best college fantasy football matchups. If you're on the waiver wire, I think week 9, it seems like 40% of the teams aren't playing that weekend. So people are going to frantically be going through the waiver wire, trying to get starters if there's a last-second injury. So what we're doing every week, we're just kicking off with these matchups. If you're looking for a wide receiver, there might be a wide receiver available in one of the matchups that we identify, and we'll give you names as the season goes along. Matt, I can't believe it. I don't think in my 14 years, and UConn was a week 0 team last year, they went to Fresno State and got whacked.
They did.
They got whacked last year. They're not flying as far, but they are flying to Utah. And I don't think I've ever seen them at the top of the board over under. It has gone down a little bit, Matt. It was 61.5 on Sunday. It's gone down to 60. But that means there's goodness here. But what we have to be realistic. The goodness is on the Aggie side of the ball.
Correct.
They're the 27-point favorite. They're home. And here's the problem. Everyone knows I'm a UConn fan if you see me here. If you don't, I'm a UConn season ticket holder. We don't even have a starter at quarterback yet. I read the Hartford Courant every day. Coach Moore is keeping it under his hat. As far as we know, there's 3 players. We lost our best receiver, Cameron Ross. He's out for the year. It's not looking good. So love Utah State here. Charlotte, Florida Atlantic. Matt.
Game of the week. I don't care what anybody tells me. Game of the week.
I love these games. You have a great group of 5 with an over-under of 59. And Matt, we will see games reach 70. They happen like maybe 5 or 6 times a year. We will definitely identify games in the 60s often. But this is the second highest game. The Owls can put points on the board. Charlotte has I think Chris Reynolds is a 4th-year starter now. So you have a good quarterback. Love that game also. Then we go to North Texas at UTEP. 55 points. North Texas was abysmal on offense last year. They should be better this year, Matt. And UTEP, the game is even. So if you're looking for points, and this is a game I'm going to watch to see who might pop. There's some receivers I like on UTEP. On North Texas. And Matt, we want to know that UTEP backfield. Who's going to, is there someone getting the most carries, or is it 50-50 timeshare? Love those games, Matt. What do you think of the last 2?
Well, John, here it is. There is nothing that says college football is back. Then you're looking at the slate and you see that sweet 10:30 p.m. Eastern time kickoff for Hawaii, and you have the Commodores heading out to Hawaii. John, Vanderbilt is a sneakily interesting team in terms of potential CFF impact. You have Ramon Davis, who now goes by Ray Davis, so that's a big upgrade, right? That's a big name upgrade. I had to double check, make sure we're talking about the same guy here. But remember, this was a guy that exploded at Temple a couple years ago, and it looks like he finally may be in the situation to succeed. I know we were having a battle for quarterback. Have they named Seals the starter yet?
He is the starter as far as I know right now.
Okay, so he did win out that job. I liked Seals last year, and either way, the competition there is a good sign, right? Because Seals wasn't bad. So we have a little bit of action in this Vanderbilt offense, and here's the thing. Hawaii could be awful at any point in time, which really makes it fun for over-under. The defense in particular can be awful at any time. They have a new coaching change. There's a lot of variables here. So this is definitely going to be one to watch, and it's going to be your only option to watch at that point in time.
Matt, I just want to clarify. I made a mistake. It looks like Mike Wright is listed on the depth chart as the starter.
Wright is listed.
So Mike Wright is the junior. Ken Seals is further down the depth chart. And Ray Davis, he had 1,000 yards as a freshman at Temple, but I think that was 2019. That was a while ago, but he missed all of last year for the Commodores. So he does have a chance. I like him also, Matt.
Yeah, and we have finishing off the slate here, Nevada at New Mexico State. Your guess is as good as mine, man. I mean, what are we doing here? Nevada at New Mexico State. Nevada, brand new coaching staff. New Mexico State, also a brand new coaching staff. Nevada lost Carson Strong and Romeo Dubs. New Mexico State never had anybody that produced on offense at a significant level. So this is going to be a fun one to tune in and just observe. Some of these games, man, you just want to sit there and just watch it without a stake in the game. I'm not putting money on this. I'm not sliding these guys into my DFS lineups. I'm just letting this game be. But it's a good example, John, if you never know who's going to emerge out of an offense, right? You never know who might sneak up and all of a sudden be relevant on the waiver wire.
Oh, absolutely. And there are a couple games in which have a Power 5 against an FCS opponent. You can't get lines on those, but usually you're obviously going to have the Power 5 team heavy favorite, and we're going to see some points put on the board. And then the kind of the fantasy dud of the week, we didn't put it up. We'll talk about in the show. Wyoming, Illinois has a 44 over under.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that, or we won't, more importantly, which should tell you everything you need. All right, John, each week we like to go through our Fantastic Four sleepers, which for those who are uninitiated to the CFF style that we bring forth, it's a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and flex player of the week. These are not our easy picks. These aren't our locked and loaded best guys of the week. But these are some folks who you may not know. They may not be at the top of your radar, but we're paying close attention. And John, you start here with N'Kosi Perry, the quarterback now at Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, N'Kosi Perry is a player that I believe that CFF owners, Matt, he's going to be on the waiver wire most of the year. If you have injuries or bye weeks, depending on the matchup, you're going to think about N'Kosi Perry. Last year, Matt, 20 touchdowns, and he threw for over 2,700 yards. He also scored 4 rushing touchdowns with 154 yards on the ground. And you had mentioned it. We like the game against Charlotte, right? That's an interesting game. And N'Kosi Perry is a player you've got to watch here. Utah State. You probably didn't see a lot of Utah State last year, Matt, but
a shame, a crying shame.
But arguably their best player is their running back, Calvin Tyler. Last year, let me get the numbers. He ran for 884 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he had 196 yards rushing. Matt, they're a 27-point favorite at home, playing the Huskies. The Huskies run defense. Moore has brought in some guys. They lost their best defensive lineman in the NFL draft. I don't think they're ready to stop the Aggies' run game. I do think Utah State is going to run the football a lot this year. Calvin Tyler should get at least 20 carries in this game, maybe 25. Love him to smash here against the Huskies. And he's a guy, if he's impressive, you may consider him on the waiver wire. So I like him. The other player, Mika Pittman, the wide receiver. He's from Oregon. He's a transfer, and he has not been very good. I think he had less in any season, Matt. I was looking. He had 227 yards in 2019. But, Matt, I started looking up Florida State this year, doing my research. Mika Pittman has been impressing the coaching staff all training camp and throughout this year. It looks like he's the number 1 guy for the Seminoles. He's a very interesting player and prospect here. He did not make a big difference for the Ducks, but I think here at Florida State and Tallahassee, he's going to be a difference maker. Micah Pittman is someone I like. Finally, Dalvin Smith is a tight end / receiver on Fantrax. We all want part of that Hilltoppers passing game. Right now, we kind of know the 4 receivers. Dalvin Smith is probably the one most under the radar. And I know they use a lot of 4 receiver sets. But Dalvin Smith is a tweener. He's not an NFL tight end. And he's probably too big for wide receiver. Well, what does that tell me, Matt? You put him in the slot. Dalvin Smith is probably going to get enough snaps to make him fantasy worthy, especially at the tight end position. For the Hilltoppers, I know they lost Zach Kitley, but they elevated the quarterback's coach behind him, implementing the same scheme. I like Dalvin Smith, Western Kentucky. Let's see how many targets he gets and how many snaps, but he's a sleeper this week.
All right, here we go. I'm going the other side of the ball at the quarterback position, and that's going to be Chris Reynolds of Charlotte to complement N'Kosi Perry of FAU. John's selection here. I like Chris Reynolds a ton. He was somebody who I targeted in DFS a good bit last year. 26 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, 63% completion rate, threw for just over 2,600 yards. 4 rushing touchdowns for Charlotte last season. So there is some versatility there with Chris Reynolds. On a slim slate like this, Reynolds becomes a really exciting dual threat guy. And the fact that both me and John have picked the same or two quarterbacks in the same matchup tells you we believe it's going to be a high scoring one.
Matt,
On the flip,
I want to say one thing. I want to shout out the DraftKings. Please put games like Charlotte and Florida Atlantic on your slate. They're second highest over under, and we've got to suffer through Wyoming and Illinois. Please, DraftKings, put Charlotte and Florida Atlantic in the future on your slates.
Especially because they are the one that we can legally use in the great state of Connecticut. But flipping to the other side here, John, Wyoming, Illinois will be a little bit boring of a matchup. We've talked about this, but John, another word for boring is running the ball. And I do believe that Wyoming is going to be looking to run the ball here, and Titus Swen is going to be the running back that benefits from that. Swen rushed for 785 yards last season on 132 attempts, just shy of 6 yards per carry, and he had 7 touchdowns. I think Illinois is going to want to run a slow pace. I think Wyoming's going to want to run a slow pace. So I'm happy to take Titus Swen here as a cheaper alternative than Chase Brown, who is probably going to be the running back folks are going to be looking at in this game at a more consensus level. I stuck with the Western Kentucky offense, John, but I went with a wide receiver here in Daewood Davis. Daewood Davis, 6'2", just shy of 200 pounds, caught 43 balls and got 8 touchdowns last year. John, on those 43 receptions, he averaged 17.7 yards per reception. Jared Stearns is gone. Mitchell Tinsley is gone. There is opportunity here for Daewood Davis to absolutely explode. I think he's on some radars, but I don't think he's on enough radars. And in my flex spot, I went with another wide receiver here, and that is Trey Palmer. And I think Trey Palmer is the epitome here of why we have this sleeper section. Trey Palmer started off as a wide receiver at LSU, transferred to Nebraska, and it's a little bit unsure what's going on in that Nebraska offense, right? We have Casey Thompson coming into the quarterback position. We haven't seen him in live action at Nebraska. Remember, he transferred in from Texas. But all the camp reports, John, all the buzz, all the hype is Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer, wide receiver 1. We've heard that consistently since spring. And so I'm excited to take advantage of folks not quite being in on Trey Palmer yet. And of course, that's going to be a game a lot of folks are going to be watching because Nebraska is actually playing Northwestern in Dublin. So there'll be a lot of eyes on it. Now we're going to transition to our DFS segment here of the episode. We like to do this in 2 different ways. John gives a fantastic 4 players to highlight with particular value, and then I will complement that here with a full slate from FanDuel. So, John, you go ahead and give us your fantastic 4, and your pricing is DraftKings, correct?
It is. I play on DraftKings, and what I like to do for our viewers and listeners, I'm a cash game player. And I like to give a fantastic 4 because this is how, if you want to build 2 or 3 lineups, you can use this fantastic 4 and then attack the slate with your other 4 players that you can go around this. So obviously, to begin this one, Matt, I'm going to attack the Western Kentucky passing game.
Load them on. Just load them on.
I'm not, you know what? I really thought about saying, is it something that I want to, fade? And I said, you can't in a cash game. I don't care if it's 80% owned by Austin Reed.
And John, when you say cash game, just in case our listeners don't know, can you explain cash game versus like a GPP?
Yes. So cash game is in the ones I play, they're either 459 players or 224 players. I think it is. In the 459, 200 players win the double what they enter into it. In the 224, 100 players win. So it's a cash game. So you're looking at finishing in the top 45% of the participants to double your cash. In a GPP,
you tend to play it a little bit safer compared to some other what folks would call a tournament or a GPP.
Yes, in a tournament GPP, you're looking for top 1 or 2% finish. Yes. And you know what, Matt? I like to just play. I love to analyze the DFS. If I lose $20 on a cash game, That's okay. Maybe I win it back next week. But I can't throw down GPP 10 weeks in a row, with $27 entry or $54 entry. So, I like to play. And then it gives me a reason to watch certain games.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
If our viewers don't know, Austin Reed beat out Jared Dagey, who ended up transferring to Troy. Austin Reed was from Western Florida. I think it's
yes,
Western
correct.
Florida.
Western Florida, Division II.
Division II. I'm not going to tell you I've seen him throw the football other than a few clips. There's no way I haven't seen Western Florida. However, he beat out Dagey. He's in that high-octane passing game. Bailey Zappi had a similar kind of transformation. I don't think he'll be as good as Zappi. But, Matt, I'm going to start him here. I thought he might be 10,000. He's only 9. I played on college football where, like Bryce Young last year, probably at like 10,800 at one point. So we're getting a starting quarterback at 9,000. I think he has a floor of 3 touchdowns and 275 yards. I like Austin Reed. I'm going to pair him up. You already mentioned it, but it's Dawood Davis for me.
Yep.
To me, it's a no-brainer. Jared Stearns and Mitchell Tinsley are no longer on the team. Even with those 2 players on the team last year, Matt, Dawood Davis averaged 12 points a game on DraftKings. He had a high of 28.5 against Marshall, 18.5 against Middle Tennessee. The ceiling is huge, and he's only 4,800 because the leading wide receiver is Corley. If you want to pay 7,600, that's your decision. But I'm going to go with Dawood Davis for 4,800. I like that. I'm always looking for one cheap player. I've had Charles Williams of the UNLV Rebels, picked him up, dropped him, waiver wire. He had 2 1,200-yard seasons in the last 3 years for UNLV. Aiden Robbins seems to be the guy most likely to get 6 carries. Matt, he's playing Idaho State.
The Vandals.
What?
The Vandals. They're playing.
Yes.
Are they playing at UNLV or at the fantastic
at UNLV?
Oh, what a bummer. What a bummer.
But that, if anyone doesn't know, that is a FCS level school. UNLV should win this football game. I'll take the starting running back who has averaged 10 points a game. Oh, he only played in 1 game on DraftKings. Against Duke, he had 10.1. I'll take the chance here because I need to save salary cap. I'll take Aiden Robbins. And the last one. This is strictly game script, Matt. Dwayne Meanders. Duke and East is probably going to get killed by Florida State. Well, what does that tell me? They're going to be throwing the ball the entire second half. I looked up the roster for the Dukes. Meanders is their number 1 guy. Matt, last year he scored 33.2 and 20.3. Oh, and he had another game of 35.4. So you have a huge ceiling. Do I think he's going to get it against the Seminoles? Probably not. But do I like a 15-point floor here? I do. And this gives you enough salary you could spend on top shelf receivers or top shelf running backs. And Matt, I know you have something for the viewers too. What's your DFS? What do you got?
All right. So John's got the DraftKings numbers, and I have built out a FanDuel full lineup here. FanDuel, it gives you 60 grand to work with here. So I started I like to start with my centerpiece of the quarterback. So FanDuel is a super flex option here. So I started with Logan Bonner, Utah State. We talked about Logan Bonner and the Utah State Aggies a ton this offseason. However, Bonner, we talked about the game script a little bit about running the ball. Bonner has some dual threat ability, and I think they're going to want him to run the ball a little bit as well. But I think there's plenty of passing upside. So you have to pay up for Logan Bonner, but I'm willing to do it. The aforementioned Casey Thompson here at 9,600. That's not a fantastic slate for quarterbacks on FanDuel, but Casey Thompson I thought was a pretty good value here in terms of the Nebraska team that is going to be pushing the ball somewhat in that game. And then you're looking at it, John. I really like Johnny Ford out of FAU. That's the running back for Florida Atlantic. So we talked about a high scoring game. I expect Ford to get some good red zone opportunities. So at 8,300, I'm banking on him being in the end zone. At running back, I paired him with Titus Swen, who I've already talked about. And then at wide receiver, we went Trey Palmer and Dawood Davis, 2 wide receivers I've talked about. And I paired him with a really efficient here selection in Victor Tucker. Victor Tucker is a go-to player on the Charlotte offense. He is a very consistent target for the aforementioned Chris Reynolds of the Charlotte 49ers. And at 7,200, I thought he was easily the best value available to me on the slate. So that's kind of a full lineup that you can build out. The way I always caution my DFS lineups is that I will tinker these lineups a ton all the way up until kickoff. But this gives you a really good starting place here for where you could find value this week playing on FanDuel, playing at DFS. Now, we are jumping on to our final segment of the day, but it is the favorite segment each and every week. It's the All-American Rookie Big Board Best Bets. And we're switching it up a little bit this year, just a little bit, because each week we will give, me and John both make one selection for one of 3 categories. It's point spread, it's over-under, and it's money line. Right? So each week we give a selection, and John keeps tally of those. In 2021, I went 16 and 14, above 500.
Yeah.
John went 19, 13 and 1. Overall, because remember, Skip was joining us on the weekly shows last year. Skip Newton, who's now on the Devi show on the Rookie Big Board podcast network. Overall, we went 51, 37 and 2 last season, 57%. That's a really good number. But me and John wanted to make it a little spicy here this year. All right. We wanted to add a little bit of competition. So me and John will be going head to head in the tally this year. And for folks watching on YouTube here, you're going to get a screen share, and you're going to see what me and John are going to be battling over. You know that the UConn Huskies are a consistent point of note for us each and every week because they're great to play against, and they're a very sad team. So I found out that Home Field, which does a lot of college football apparel, makes a sad Husky UConn t-shirt. And so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this very just distraught looking Husky. And if you're listening, I mean, I think I'm describing it pretty well for if you're listening.
He looks distraught.
He is distraught. He's a sad looking Husky. And so what's going to happen here is that me and John will be going to get my screen share back here. So me and John will be keeping tally of this all season. And then the winner here is going to have the shirt purchased for them by the loser. So I'm looking forward to this one, John. And I'll let you go ahead and start off here just as I do some production note here and pull our slides back up.
Sure, absolutely. And I look forward. I mean, in a way, I want to win the distraught Husky t-shirt, but I want to win for our viewers too. So I'm in a conundrum. But I love betting a little bit on different ways, and I'm always looking for the one game that I believe that Vegas has made a mistake on each week. And I want to tell our viewers, every game that I put on these shows, I bet. So if I win, you win. If I lose and you follow me, then you lose. I don't want to think our viewers I'm doing anything that is different. And Thursday is nice. Now, a line might change. And Matt, but I put when I'm off just before I come on or immediately afterwards on DraftKings, I put in my bets. So I do it. You can lock them in. If the movement happens, well, I'm still locked into what is on the show. So I like to begin this week. I've been on Scott Frost. I loved him at UCF. I thought he'd turn around that Nebraska program, Matt. I'm off the train. I skydived. I am off the Nebraska train. Northwestern, I don't think they're very good, Matt. But you know what they're going to do here? They are going to slog this game. They are going to call it with 2 seconds, the the snap with 2 seconds on the clock. They're going to probably try, as long as the game script doesn't get out of control, run the ball almost 40 times and limit Nebraska. I love home underdogs, especially early in the year. We think Northwestern's bad, right? But this is a Big Ten conference game. We don't really know how bad or how good Nebraska is. You're giving me a home underdog plus 13 where you could easily backdoor this. Nebraska could be up 27-10 and Northwestern scores a late touchdown and you backdoor cover. I'll take the home underdog here. Give me the 13.
Just to clarify, there is
one. What?
They're not really a home underdog because they're playing in Ireland, but I think they're technically
you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. They are playing in Ireland. Wait, they're ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
So they are going to kick off. If it's 12:30 here, they're probably 6:30, 7:30 their time.
Yeah, it's about it's 5 to 6 hours depending on the time of year.
Okay.
But anyways, John, I have that same pick. Me and John don't show our picks ahead of time. So I also have Northwestern plus 13. I actually let me try that one again here. I am in on Nebraska this year to be a much more competitive team overall. I think they can push 7-8 wins. My thing here, though, is exactly what John went for. Plus 13 for Northwestern is just too much because I think they're going to slow the game down. We don't know how these college students' body clocks are going to adjust, too.
Yeah.
I know they're over there a few days early, but it's not like they're NFL players who are used to these trips across the pond. And even then, we see some wacky scores sometimes when they play the NFL teams play in London. So I think that we're going to see a slow rollout here. I don't think either team is going to want to tip their hand too much playing in week 0. You can tip your hand to your opponents because they have a week of game film and you don't have it, right? So I think these two Big Ten opponents here are going to be playing it easy. I do think that Nebraska wins this game, but I don't think they cover 13 points. John, you have an over-under here of under 60 for the Huskies versus the Aggies.
First, I want to tell our viewers that line was 61.5, and it's actually gone down in the last 48 hours to 60. If you like this line and you're watching it, try to jump on that now because I'm not sure about 58. When we get to the 58, so I'm taking my 60 and go home. I'm pretty happy with this. And here's why. I thought a lot about this. Matt, the Huskies don't have a quarterback. I just don't see how they score 17 or more points. There's a good chance UConn scores 10 points in this game. I like it because Utah State will run the ball in the second half. It's the old Bill Walsh theory with the 49ers. Throw for the lead, run for the win. Utah State's that's why I like Logan Bonner. They get up early. They're up maybe. They get up 21-0, but then they just run the clock out, and I don't see how the Huskies put up their side. So I'm going to take the under here. Who do you got for over-under, Matt?
I'm going to go under as well, but I'm taking the Vanderbilt-Hawaii under of 53.5. We talked about this game a little bit earlier here, but I don't trust the Hawaii offense. I can't clearly identify anybody who I think is really going to put up points. I do like Vanderbilt to come out and have a strong showing against the Rainbow Warriors, but Vanderbilt in a strong showing is probably going to max out 21 points, right? I mean, if we're being realistic, 28 points is probably the high end. And so it would be hard pressed for me to see Hawaii pushing close enough to Vandy there to get the over. So it's early in the season. I'm playing it safe, playing an under. I think we have a similar strategy here, but let's go with the money line because maybe you have a contrasting argument for me here.
So this is fascinating. I looked, and anyone who knows, I like some juice. I'm not going to go very often like plus 120 or minus 110 unless it's so obvious that I just want to cash out. Look for
John, that's it. Sorry, not to cut you off, but again, I think just a good time to give a little bit more there. When you say juice, what do you mean by it?
So I'm going to bet 100, and if Hawaii wins the game, I get $260 back.
Because they're plus 260.
Yes, that's why I take the plus 260. Now, I might only bet, and I don't bet in hundreds, but let's say I bet in like 2 units, and a unit is technically, I don't know, five, let's say $5 or $10. But if I bet $10 and I win 260, Matt, I'm pretty fired up about that. And if I lose $10, or I mean, sorry, I would win 26.
26.
Yeah, my fault,
Yeah.
26. If I lose 10, it's not the end of the world, but I like 26. So I'm looking for juice. And I know, you know what's fascinating? As I'm listening to week 0 breakdowns, all of a sudden Vanderbilt's being talked about. Do you know, Matt, that line went from 6.5 to 8.
Wow.
I'm blown away that Vanderbilt's an 8-point favorite right now, which is a whole nother story.
I think people don't trust Hawaii with that coaching change.
That's it, and they lost a lot of personnel. They lost their quarterback. I get it. But you mentioned young men flying to Ireland. Vanderbilt's in Tennessee. They're going to the middle of the Pacific Ocean in Honolulu. They're going to beaches. I mean, this is a trap game in my book. You have young men between 19 and 21 going to Hawaii and Honolulu. Matt, that just screams, I want to enjoy the Hawaiian beach. And I know you're there to win a game, but human beings
potentially the only game they can win. They might have a different motivation when they know they got to play Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look, you're right about, but I've seen good teams go to Hawaii and have big problems. And here's the new coach, Timmy Chang, who used to be the quarterback when they were flying high at like the turn of the century. We don't know what's going to happen with this offense. If you're going to catch a team off guard with a new coach, this is the spot. So I'm going to take the juice here. I'm going to take the Rainbows plus 260. And I just like that. I think the Rainbows are going to surprise. Hey, everyone likes Vanderbilt. I'm probably the only I've known who's publicly say, you know what? Kind of like the Rainbows here.
All right. And I'm going to go with Charlotte here plus 240. I thought that was a really good number. I mean, Charlotte, I think, still has this concept of being an underdog, but because they're a relatively new program, but they played really well last year. And they bring back Chris Reynolds, and they bring back Victor Tucker, and they bring back a lot of experience there. So plus 240 for Charlotte. I thought this game would be much closer to a push. So I really like the juice on that side of things here, to use the term that John clarified for all of us. So I'm going to go with plus 240 in Charlotte here. I'm excited about it. I feel confident I'm going to be 3-0 and in the driver's seat here to get my Sad Husky t-shirt at the end of the season. But you will have to check back in next week here for the updates off of week 0. We will be back next week with our week 1 preview, and all the way through the season, each and every week, we're going to be talking. And as always here, we appreciate you checking out this episode of the Rookie Big